And welcome back to the Florida Citrus Sports and FloridaHighSchoolFootball.com High School Football Media Days here on Quick Cut Sports, brought to you by Starling Chevrolet. I'm Greg Rhodes with my co-host here, Balin Trujillo. And right now we'll be meeting here with Dan LaForest and Ronnie Bitman of the Influence Counsel by Bitman Law. This segment, of course, is being brought to you by the Influence Counsel by Bitman Law, helping student athletes and their families understand the complicated world of NIL, education, and helping them implement their plan. For more information, check them out at influencecounsel.com. Now, to start off, guys, welcome to Media Days. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
I'm excited.
Just to start off with, can you kind of describe a little bit what NIL is and kind of what its impact on our high school athletes here in Florida is going forward?
I guess I'll get into what NIL is. NIL is it's the acronym for name, image, and likeness. And what that is that's a bundle of property rights that people own. Whether it's a picture of an athlete, whether it's their voice, their name on the back of the jersey, or their likeness, for instance, a video game figure. And so those are a bundle of personal rights that everybody has. And for the first time ever in the summer of 21, the United States Supreme Court said that collegiate athletes are allowed to commercially exploit their rights and get paid for their name, image, and likeness while they're in college, university, which was totally prohibited before. And so now it is not only legal, it is the law of the land in the United States, and athletes of all kind in the college level are able to get paid for the use of their name, their image, and their likeness.
Yeah, and you know what? I think what you guys are doing is really setting the stage of what it looks like now for Central Florida, because we don't really have this right now. And we have so much talent here, as you guys seen today, that there's going to be opportunities for some of these guys to be making millions of dollars at the age of 17, 18 years old and not know what to do with it, right? Because it's a lot. We're talking about teams like Texas and Texas A&M, and we're talking about big oil money colleges. But before we get on to that, because we see the name behind you, you guys helped create this brand, Influencer Counsel. Dan LaForest, I want to ask you, what is Influencer Counsel? Like, what exactly, so that the audience knows what that is?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you have to understand what NIL is, and you're talking about the legal aspects, whether legal aspects of contracts, whether you're dealing directly with a collective or you're dealing with an outside brand. Also, you have to take a look at what the financial and taxation implications are. You know, one of my biggest passions is, Balin, you and I both know a lot of guys that played the NFL, right, that literally have nothing today. And when I go talk to them, the two most major things that brought up is, I didn't listen to anybody and I didn't know who to trust. Well, I feel like we can help them with one of it, right? We can give them somebody who's trustworthy. We can give them enough information that they either listen to us or they can find out their own destiny. But you also have social media branding. You have philanthropy. And I think that's understanding what NIL responsibility is. It's not about getting paid. We see it as a business opportunity, because your opportunity to be compensated for these elements at the college level and possibly at the high school level in the future does not guarantee you NFL contracts in the future. So this is an opportunity to possibly get a leg up in life before you start your real life post your playing career.
Yeah, we'll tell you, I wish I had the NIL when I was playing, because I would be getting some money from that video game I was on, the last one to ever come out. But anyways, that's another conversation.
Hey, I'm not gonna, I tell kids all the time, they owe me.
Yeah,
they owe you, right?
Exactly.
Because we didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah, and we still don't.
Take that.
They try to give us a check for like $1,000 when the NIL first came out. Like, oh, we'll reward some of the guys. I'm like, this ain't nothing to compare to the millions of dollars these guys are getting now. But I do want to talk about that. How is this applicable for high school athletes? What does it look like in the future? How is it going to impact later on down the road? Because, again, you guys are going to be the first to really touch into this market.
So let me get into that very briefly. The NIL right now across the country is a mess. It is the Wild West, and if anybody tells you they know and understand all the details behind it, they don't.
Right.
You have 50 states who have 50 different laws that are touching on it. You've got the NCAA with its own guidelines that are changing all the time and compelling states to act accordingly. For instance, in Florida here, the Florida legislature, the governor, they entered into one of the first NIL laws a couple of years ago. The NCAA changed the rules this February 2023, and the Florida legislature gutted the NIL law based on it. Now, imagine that in all 50 states. There needs to be some kind of federal legislation that says this is what the law is across the board in the country, because right now it's totally state dependent, university guideline and rules dependent, and NCAA dependent. As of now, to answer your question, it is prohibited in the state of Florida for high school athletes to get any kind of compensation for their athletic abilities. I have, in the last month, received multiple calls from high school athletes saying they're being approached with deals. And can we just say I'm a online model and it has nothing to do with what I'm doing in athletics? And all of these questions are totally unanswered, but the safest approach is stay away. There's enough time where you're not only are you risking your high school eligibility, but your college eligibility if you take anything. And, you know, for $500, for $50, for $2,000, it's not worth it. So my advice to the high school athletes in the state of Florida is stay away. There will be time, and it may be sooner than later, possibly a year from now, where NIL becomes available and applicable to high school students. It is in a lot of other states. It is not in Florida now, and that is the quickest way to burn a student athlete's eligibility is by accepting goods or payment for their athletic prowess.
And do you think that's a positive or a negative when high school athletes all across the country are now going to get paid? Now it's not about your best talent that's signing those scholarships. Okay, now you have something behind. Now it's the locker room, right? So now it's, well, you're only 15, 16. Yeah, you had the opportunity to start because maybe your position opened up and there's not a senior there or junior. Now you're making thousands, I wouldn't say millions yet, but thousands of dollars, or getting cars or getting whatever that looks like. Do you think that in this space, is it beneficial, or do you think it's going to be a positive or negative light, especially in the high school realm?
I'll let Dan talk about the positives and
And
negatives
I
of it,
really
but
don't wanna
forget about the locker room.
Yeah.
What if you're sitting in a kid in class and you're making more than your teacher and your principal and every other admin in the
You will
school?
be.
That's a legitimate issue that's going to be facing people. But in terms of the pros cons at the high school level, we'll have Dan answer that.
You know, at the end of the day, I think it comes down to this, is people have to realize you cannot sign a legal contract under the age of 18.
Good point.
So that is very
Great point.
important. So now you've got to have your parents act on your behalf, which I think opens up a lot of other problems in a lot of different areas. You know, when we've been speaking at conferences, what we're telling coaches and administrators is this: if you can imagine it, you better be prepared for it. Because right now we do not know what that looks like. But what I do know is there's a lot of bad actors out there that are going to try and take advantage of student athletes and their situation. And if they don't understand what's going on, not even that. I mean, we don't know what a collective or NIL deals look like going forward. Do they include your scholarship money? Do they include some kind of forgivable loan where if you leave a school, you have to pay back a certain amount? We don't know what that is. But when you're talking about having a contract attorney that has the experience of looking at that and have a seasoned financial professional that can put together a financial and taxation plan for you, these are the things that the Influencer Council, we feel like we are in a really good position to be available. We want to be available to these families as they have to make hard decisions about recruiting and NIL and eligibility and what if I need a transfer. These are all things we're dealing with on a regular basis. So we feel like we are positioned very well, other than other people, to give a complete package to these people.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that to finish this off. We've seen talent. Well, you know, I train quarterbacks. There's going to be guys that are going to be making the big bucks. They're already getting offers as freshmen and sophomores, right? So I know that conversation is going to happen. And in the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to look completely different what this is. So I think you guys are a bigger deal than maybe you guys even think because of where the NIL is going. So with the viewers that are watching, and obviously all the athletes and the parents that are going to be watching this later and rewatching it, how can they find you guys? How can they get in contact with you guys? I know you mentioned it as you introduced, but I want to make sure that they understand the severity of what this could look like because, like you said, Dan, this is going to be an issue. This is going to be a problem, and it's a good problem if you do it the right way, right? Because this could change your life, your family's life with especially the money that's coming in. Because to an 18-year-old getting a couple $1 million, that could be gone within a month. You're buying your family a car. You think now this is the time to provide. Then you're broke before you even get to the university because you think I have endless money. And then they read their contract and it's not even guaranteed until you win games, till you maybe are in a Heisman candidate voting or bring a district, or not district, but a championship to your conference or appear in a national. Then you're like, oh my goodness, now I'm screwed because here I am getting this money. It sounds good, but there's also things you got to read that you still have to bring to the table. So how can they get in contact with you guys? Make sure that they understand that, because I know they're going to watch this, because you guys, in my opinion, as a trainer, are going to be the most important people when it comes down to these young men making some serious money later on down the road.
Right. So the best way to contact us is on our website, which is influencer-counsel.com. Also to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and Influencer Counsels through the Bitman Law Firm. So Bitman Law Firm is the address on all the social platforms. But you're right. There's so much to know, and it's high consequence. If you accept money as a high school athlete for posing in a shirt on a weekend, you might have just blown all your eligibility. And so what we're providing and what we're doing is offering free advice. I mean, unless you are in college or about to go to college and we have to work on deals and give legal advice, we're providing free advice right now for families to know how to stay out of trouble. And the best part about it is to just be prepared. We're going to provide all the information that we have to be able to make good and valuable decisions going forward. But it's a dangerous prospect now, dealing with legalities and taxes and what to do with financial structures and all those kinds of things. So influencer-counsel.com is the best way to go about it. And even email us, info@influencer-counsel.com.
That's very important information that I feel like that a lot of, like we've talked about, high school athletes just don't have that access to that information right now. Dan, is there any other way that you'd like to reach out to these student athletes?
No, I think the biggest thing we have to understand is, like anything else, I deal with a lot of people at retirees trying to prepare for retirement. It's the same process. It's about having a plan before you get to where you want to be. I think NIL has to be the same thing. You have to create an NIL plan. You have to know what your social media plan is to increase your following. You have to have a financial plan. You have to have a legal foundation. You have to have these relationships, and why not work with people that are in this space already, and have a presence not only in Central Florida but across the state of Florida.
It's fantastic information here from the influencer-counsel.com, brought to you by the Bitman Law Firm. Again, this is the Florida Citrus Sports and Florida High School Football.com High School Football Media Days here on Quick Cut Sports. Thank you again, Ronnie Bitman, Dan LaForest, for joining us today. Some really important information to get out there.
Thank you.
Thanks for
We'll
having
be
us.
back right after this short break.